On Wednesday, we named 5 teams most likely to waste their first round pick on Thursday night. The draft has happened. The picks are in. So how did we do? And more importantly, which teams actually made the mistake? Which ones avoided it? And which ones surprised everyone by doing something completely different, and potentially even worse? Let's find out. Before we go team by team, a quick reminder of the framework. In the last 2 videos, we established 2 principles. First, NFL teams consistently overdraft quarterbacks, paying premium prices for a position that busts at nearly 50%. Second, surplus value is the gap between what a player costs on their rookie contract and what they actually produce. The best teams maximize it, the worst teams destroy it. Thursday night gave us 5 live examples to test those principles against. The verdict isn't always what you'd expect. Let's start with the Raiders. Our prediction? Taking Fernando Mendoza first overall in a thin quarterback class was making the same bet they made with Jamarcus Russell in 2007. Premium price, premium risk. What actually happened? The Raiders took Fernando Mendoza first overall. Prediction confirmed. Now, to be fair to the Raiders, Mendoza is a significantly better prospect than Russell was. He's a Heisman Trophy winner, an Indiana National Championship quarterback, and most scouts had him as a legitimate first-round talent. This is not a Jamarcus Russell situation in terms of the player. But here's what the surplus value framework says, regardless of how good Mendoza is. The Raiders roster has genuine holes at offensive line, wide receiver, and interior defensive line. They've just committed a top-of-the-scale rookie contract to a quarterback, the most expensive position in football, in a class that most scouts ranked as one of the weakest in recent memory. The question isn't whether Mendoza can play, it's whether he can justify the most expensive pick in the draft. History says fewer than 1 in 6 quarterbacks taken first overall become genuinely elite. The Raiders are betting Mendoza is that one. It's the same bet franchises make every year. Sometimes it works, the data says it usually doesn't. Verdict. The prediction landed. Whether it proves correct depends entirely on Mendoza. Check back in 3 years. Now for the surprise of the night. Our prediction? The Jets had 2 first-round picks, 2 and 16, and the biggest risk was using one of them on a quarterback in a weak class. We said the smart play was to trade down from 2, collect extra picks, and build surplus value. What actually happened? The Jets took David Bailey, an edge rusher from Texas Tech, at pick 2.
With the second pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the New York Jets select David Bailey, linebacker, Texas Tech.
At 16, they took Kenyon Sadiq, a tight end from Oregon. And then they traded back into the first round at 30 to take Omar Cooper Jr., a wide receiver from Indiana. 3 first-round picks, an edge rusher, a tight end, and a wide receiver. 0 quarterbacks. We have to give credit where it's due. The Jets did not fall into the trap. They resisted the temptation to use their extraordinary draft capital on a quarterback in a weak class. They built their roster instead. Bailey at 2 addresses a genuine need on the defensive line. Sadiq gives them a pass-catching tight end. Cooper gives them another weapon for Garrett Wilson. The surplus value on that haul, 3 picks in the first round, all addressing genuine roster needs, none of them a reach at quarterback, is the best single-night draft performance of any team on our list. Verdict? Prediction wrong, in the best possible way. The Jets surprised us. Now let's see if they can sustain the discipline. The Cardinals are the most interesting story of the night. Our prediction? They would take the 3rd best quarterback in a weak class with the 3rd overall pick, paying top 3 money for 3rd tier quarterback talent. Classic negative surplus value. What actually happened? The Cardinals didn't take a quarterback at all. They took Jeremiah Love, the Notre Dame running back, with the 3rd overall pick.
With the 3rd pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Arizona Cardinals select Jeremiah Love.
The highest drafted running back since Saquon Barkley went 2nd overall in 2018. So were we wrong? Partially. The Cardinals avoided the quarterback trap. Full credit. But here's the problem. They may have walked straight into a different surplus value disaster. We covered this in video 4. Running backs posted some of the worst surplus value numbers of any position in the first round. Christian McCaffrey, Ezekiel Elliott, Saquon Barkley, elite players who still posted negative surplus value during their rookie contracts because their salaries were simply too high relative to their production. Love is reportedly already set to earn more than $50 million guaranteed, which essentially eliminates any cost-controlled surplus value from the pick entirely. The Cardinals avoided one mistake and made a different one. They went from the risk of overpaying for an average quarterback to overpaying for a running back in a position group that generates the worst return on investment in the entire draft. Love may be a brilliant player. He ran for nearly 1,400 yards and 18 touchdowns last season for Notre Dame. The talent is not in question. The surplus value is. Verdict: prediction partially wrong. They avoided the QB trap, but the running back pick at 3 overall raises almost identical surplus value concerns. Different position, same problem. The Cowboys came into the draft with 2 first-round picks, 12 and 20, after trading Micah Parsons. We said the risk was Jerry Jones making the splashy pick over the value pick. What actually happened? The Cowboys traded up from 12 to 11 to take Caleb Downs, the Ohio State safety.
With the 11th pick in the 2026 NFL Draft, the Dallas Cowboys select Caleb Downs.
Then at the 23rd pick, which they received from the Eagles in a trade, they took Malachi Lawrence, an edge rusher from UCF. Mixed verdict. Caleb Downs at 11 is a genuinely quality player, a do-it-all safety with no true weaknesses, and arguably the most complete defender in the draft. The Cowboys' secondary has been a problem for years, and Downs addresses it directly. But safety is not a premium surplus value position. At 11 overall, the Cowboys are paying top 12 money for a position that historically doesn't justify it. The best surplus value in the draft comes from offensive line, pass rush, and quarterback, not safety. Lawrence at 23 as part of the Eagles trade is actually the smarter pick of the two, an edge rusher with high upside at a position that generates strong surplus value in the mid-first round. The Cowboys resisted the most dramatic moves. They didn't trade multiple picks for a splashy name, and they didn't overpay for a quarterback. But paying top 12 money for a safety when offensive line and pass rush were available is a mild version of the same mistake. Verdict: prediction partially correct. Discipline was better than expected, but the positional value at 11 is questionable. And finally, the Eagles. The team this channel has covered more than any other. Our prediction? Their biggest need was offensive line. The risk was taking a quarterback at 23 instead. We said if they spent that pick on a QB they didn't need, they'd violated every principle of surplus value drafting. What actually happened is genuinely fascinating. The Eagles didn't take a quarterback, and they didn't take an offensive lineman. They traded up from 23 to 20, giving up 2 fourth-round picks and receiving a 2027 seventh rounder to take Mekhi Lemon, a wide receiver from USC. Why? Because A.J. Brown is almost certainly leaving. Reports emerged immediately after the pick that the Eagles were operating under the assumption Brown would not be on their roster next season. So the Eagles came into the draft with one stated need, offensive line, and left with a wide receiver instead, having traded up and spent 2 additional picks to get him. From a pure surplus value perspective, this raises questions. Wide receivers historically generate moderate surplus value compared to offensive linemen. The Eagles gave up 2 fourth-round picks that sit right in the Goldilocks zone of the draft, to move up 3 spots for a player who was regarded as just outside the top 10 by most analysts. However, and this is important, if A.J. Brown is genuinely leaving, a first-round wide receiver to replace him makes contextual sense. The Eagles know their roster better than any data model does. The surplus value question is really about the trade cost. 2 fourth-round picks is a meaningful price for a 3-spot jump. Whether Lemon justifies it depends on whether he becomes a genuine number 1 receiver, a high bar for a slot-heavy prospect. Verdict: prediction partially wrong. They avoided the QB reach, but the OL need remains unaddressed, and the cost of trading up raises its own surplus value questions. So what does Thursday night tell us about the surplus value framework? The Raiders confirmed the most predictable mistake: first overall quarterback in a weak class. The Jets completely surprised us by doing the smart thing, building surplus value across multiple positions rather than reaching for a quarterback. The Cardinals avoided one trap and walked into another, trading the QB surplus value problem for a running back surplus value problem. The Cowboys showed partial discipline, better than feared but not perfect. And the Eagles made a contextually understandable pick that still leaves their biggest structural need unaddressed. 1 clean win for the framework, 1 complete surprise, 3 partial verdicts, which is actually what good draft analysis should look like. If every prediction landed perfectly, the draft would be predictable. It isn't. But the surplus value framework gave us a lens through which to evaluate every single pick, and that lens is going to be just as useful when the season starts and we see which rosters are built to win. The 2026 season is 4 months away. Between now and then, we'll be applying this framework to every team that made a significant move this week, not just the 5 we covered, but the teams that quietly built surplus value in rounds 2 and 3 while everyone was watching round 1. Because that's where championships are often won, not on draft night. In the picks, nobody was watching. If you want to keep seeing the NFL through a different lens, subscribe and drop in the comments which of these 5 teams you think made the best or worst decision on Thursday night. We'll be watching. See you next Wednesday.